Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today at the Madge Lewis Scholarship Foundation for Story Hour. Today we do have Pete Kennedy, and Pete A. Kennedy is a leadership expert, a best-known author, and a man of honorable character. He's a native of the island of Jamaica. He attended Kingston College High School, and in 1997, he migrated to Chicago. After graduating at DeVry University, which he obtained his Bachelor's of Science in Computer Information and System, he moved to Florida in 2002. On his quest to live his best life, he personally studied and applied the power of leadership and emotional intelligence, along with the importance of vision and purpose. He has been serving greatly as a leader in the industry for 15 years in various industries. He is the founder and CEO of EMYLL, which stands for the Educating Men and Youth How to Lead and Live, where his focus is on personal and professional development of individuals of all ages and business. Pete has made his life work to empower individuals all over the world. His travels include the UK, the Philippines, and he's traveled throughout the United States and even Jamaica. Pete is the manager and the membership relations department at the Black Professional Network, which is BPN, and he's the member of John Maxwell Leadership Team. And he's also a director of membership for the Jamaican Men of Florida. Pete gained his master's degree in educational leadership. Pete recently released his international best-selling book, When a Man Lives, a Lifestyle in Leadership Most Men Will Never Experience. We thank Pete for joining us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Pete A. Kennedy.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete. Go ahead.
Oh, I am totally sorry. I thought you were going to ask me something else after that. I'm truly happy to be here. And one of the reasons is this foundation is dear to my heart, even though I'm not connected from the roots. And the reason being is I knew when this foundation began and in honor of grandma and those. And I am really excited to see the work that is being done over the years with this organization. So to be here just to share with you, and even for you guys to see me fit to share on your program is really an honor. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and keep doing a wonderful job in the community. Our youth and our community needs it. But today you guys asked me to come and talk about parenting. And parenting is dear to my heart because I mentioned parenting in my recent release book called When a Man Loves, a Lifestyle and Leadership Most Men Will Never Experience. And the reason parenting is so important to me because parenting is where it all begins. Parenting is where the driving force is enhanced and developed. Parenting is where we can help to identify these particular skills that we can help our children to be the individuals they desire to be. Parenting is something that I tell people, I hear some people say, hey, it's good to be a dad. And before I became a dad, I just never knew what it is. Parenting is one thing you cannot experience it until you've walked that true path of parenting. So for those of you who are parents, I want to say, keep up the great job. It's really something that doesn't come with a manual, but with guidance and with direction, we can help each other to become better parents. And this is a platform that the Madge Lewis Foundation is offering to the community, that we can all become better parents, right? So one of the first places I want to start with is this, is parenting is leadership. If you ever think about the fact that, hey, I don't like leadership, I don't want to be a manager, I don't want to be a CEO, I don't want to run on my own business, I'm not interested in any of that. I just want to work hard, give my kids an opportunity that they can actually become successful. But I want to share with you something that I think you have an idea, but I'm going to make it very clear. That's where leadership begins. Parenting. The moment you decide to become a parent, you're picking up leadership. One, you're actually bringing someone in this world who never asked to be here. They do not know what the world has ahead of them. And we are put in a position to guide and direct them in a manner that these specific children can become positive influences in our community. So remember that parenting is the first step to leadership. And this is why I share it is important that we understand who we are. We truly have spent some time walking this earth a little bit before we become parents. Now, mistakes happen, things take place, that is fine, right? With God, all things are possible. So trust me, once you have life, there's hope. But let's talk about setting up a foundation, one that we can say truly we've spent some time investing. And again, that is starting with parenting. So Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I met through the John Maxwell program, I'm one of the John Maxwell leadership members. And I met Dr. Bruce Lipton about 3 years ago. And he said something that blew my mind, but it's just the way how he said it. And I put it in my book. In the introduction, I think about page 5, I made some notes here to make sure that I thought I was going to have the kids a little bit to show them. But in page 5 here, I mark it up in the book. Dr. Bruce Lipton says, if you give me a baby, doesn't matter the sex, whether it's a male or a female, I, Dr. Bruce Lipton, will produce with you within the first 7 years an adult male, adult female. Blew my mind. I was like, now this guy is crazy. How do you take someone from baby to 7 and turn them into a child? Then he went on to explain. He said, the very first 7 years of a child's life is the most important. That's the programming years. He said, within these particular years, what you put in and the things that you put in place will actually break or make this particular individual. And that is why leading by example is one of the biggest things I talk about with parenting. Where I'm from in Jamaica, they say, hey, it's not what I say, is what you do to some extent. That is true. But I've seen parenting where they turn it around and be like, hey, I'm telling you to do this, but you're doing the opposite. And children learn from the eyes. And when he said that, it's all about spending the time to teach our kids how to communicate, teach them how to love, teach them how to identify and be themselves. And I want to take this opportunity right now to share with you a snippet of a video that I recently, booked myself upon probably about a year ago. And I love this video. And this is actually from an author as well. And this particular author is, I'll tell you right now, is Julie Hythacott Harms. And she wrote a book that is called How to Raise Adults. And I want to share with you briefly a snippet from her TED Talk where she actually shared about the importance of how understanding that love and communication is what drives auto productivity within children. So check this out for just a moment. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to share my screen in 3, 2, make sure my sound is on, 1. Here we go. Just a snippet.
if you look at what we've done, if you have the courage to really look at it, you'll see that not only do our kids think their worth comes from grades and scores, but that when we live right up inside their precious developing minds all the time, like our very own version of the movie Being John Malkovich, we send our children the message, hey kid, I don't think you can actually achieve any of this without me. And so with our overhelp, our overprotection, overdirection, and handholding, we deprive our kids of the chance to build self-efficacy, which is a really fundamental tenet of the human psyche, far more important than that self-esteem they get every time we applaud. Self-efficacy is built when one sees that one's own actions lead to outcomes, not, there you go. Not one's parents' actions on one's behalf, but when one's own actions lead to outcomes. So simply put, if our children are to develop self-efficacy, and they must, then they have to do a whole lot more of the thinking, planning, deciding, doing, hoping, coping, trial and error, dreaming and experiencing of life for themselves. Now, am I saying every kid is hardworking and motivated and doesn't need a parent's involvement or interest in their lives and we should just back off and let go? Hell no. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when we treat grades and scores and accolades and awards as the purpose of childhood, all in furtherance of some hoped-for admission to a tiny number of colleges or entrance to a small number of careers, that's too narrow a definition of success for our kids. And even though we might help them achieve some short-term wins by overhelping, like they get a better grade if we help with do their homework, they might end up with a longer childhood resume when we help. What I'm saying is that all of this comes at a long-term cost to their sense of self. What I'm saying is we should be less concerned with a specific set of colleges they might be able to apply to or might get into, and far more concerned that they have the habits, the mindset, the skill set, the wellness to be successful wherever they go. What I'm saying is our kids need us to be a little less obsessed with grades and scores and a whole lot more interested in childhood providing a foundation for their success built on things like love and chores. Did I just say chores? Did I just say chores? I really did. But really, here's why. The longest longitudinal study of humans ever conducted is called the Harvard Grant Study. It found that professional success in life, which is what we want for our kids, that professional success in life comes from having done chores as a kid. And the earlier you started, the better. That a roll up your sleeves and pitch in mindset, a mindset that says, there's some unpleasant work, someone's got to do it, it might as well be me. A mindset that says, I will contribute my effort to the betterment of the whole. That's what gets you ahead in the workplace. Now, we all know this. You know this.
All right, so I'm gonna stop that video there. And the reason why I'm gonna stop it there is she actually spoke about something that a lot of us as parents take chores for granted. And you'll be surprised how doing chores at home actually takes that child to another level when we talk about success. And it's really all about rolling up them sleeves and let's get it done. It's all about quality time. It's all about building things. No matter how small it is, if something comes into my house to build, we're building it as a family. My wife is giving me the screw. She's just sitting over there, just handing the screws. And my sons and I are the ones who are actually putting the whole thing together. At one point, I act naive and ask my eldest son to read the instructions so he can understand how to actually do this very thing when he gets his own home. It's rolling up them sleeves and getting it done. So parenting, it's a two-party agreement. One, which the other person really never asked for, but it's an agreement, right? And this specific walk together allows you to enjoy. Oh my gosh, it allows you to truly enjoy parenting. But getting to that early age, starting early, and understanding that love and communication is more important about the grade and what college they go through would truly allow these individuals, especially your children, to really succeed. I say this to my wife all the time, and she's like, "Are you serious?" I say to her, I'm really not pushing for my kids to go to college." She's like, "What do you mean?" I am not pushing for my kids to go to college, right? Not I'm saying college is not great. Let me make that clear. I'm not saying college is great, but I want to build up their mindset and their skill that if my son can figure out something that can actually change this world at the age of 21, what's the sense of going to college? Now, if the opportunity comes, which I will strive for them to go to college, I want you guys get the point I'm saying, is I want to put the time in now that whatever is it that God has in them, he can birth it early like a David. He can birth it early like a Samuel. He can do all of these things with these children that he's given us the opportunity to raise, with actually doing tremendous thing in the community from an early stage. Now, I talked about the parents and how parents can actually be better at doing what we do as parenting. Also, steps of how you can connect, listening to our author Juliet just now, understanding that love and communication is the key, right? Now we're talking about the kids, because I understand there's children going to be looking at this. There's young people probably out there looking at this that may have a question. Let's talk about your role, because remember, this is a two partnership, right? And one of the biggest things that I've discovered when it comes to children or youth is, one, they love discipline, but also it is very important to be obedient. Bible says obedience is better than sacrifice. And I remember when I left the island at the age of 17, just like you mentioned earlier, Miss Kimon, I loved playing soccer, and I wanted to actually go to a college that had the opportunity for me to play soccer. And my mom drove up to a school which was called DeVry Institute of Technology, guys. And I can tell you that school did not have a basketball court, much less a tennis court, to even offer me any type of extracurricular outside of school. And when I sat in the dean's office while he was going over the whole program, I remember he stopped and he said, "Young man, I realize that you're not paying me any attention, or you're not here. What's going on?" And I said to him, "Driving in, I didn't see anything that pertains to sport. I didn't see a basketball court. I didn't see a soccer field. Is there any sports? Because my mom know I like sports. I want to do some sports." He said to me, "Unfortunately," rocking in his chair, he said, "Unfortunately, this is a technical school and we don't offer sports." How did you think I felt? I was like heartbroken. I was sad. I totally lost interest. And my mom looked at me and she said, "Hey, computer is going to be the next thing that takes over the world." This was 1997 going into 1999 when they had the Y2K era. And she said, "You need to know computers." I was upset. I left. I enrolled in school. I stayed in school. I graduated with my bachelor's in computer information systems. But because of obedience, that bachelor's allowed me to actually acquire a master's in educational leadership, which is what I love to do, which is to train, teach, coach, and develop. I would prefer to have that in a master's than a bachelor's. So your obedience can lead you to other things sometimes when God is setting you up, which is why parents, we are so important with making sure that we understand who our children are and giving them the ability to become the persons they desire. So I want to share another video for the young people, and this is more for the, I would say, the ages probably 10 and under, right? Because I really know that, you know, we have those young people out there, and I saw Kimon's son earlier. But let me cue this video up, and I have it here. And I want to share this is very small, but it's very huge, especially in the Bible, but also when we talk about how obedience can actually set up your success in so many different ways. Young people, sons and daughters. All right. So watch this video. Let me share it with you now. And I am doing so. My sound is on. Take a look.
Samuel. Hannah prays for a baby. God answers her prayers and gives her a baby boy named Samuel. When Samuel is old enough, he goes to live in God's temple. Samuel helps the high priest Eli. Samuel wears a special linen vest that the priests wear. He is a good boy and works hard. One night, when Samuel is sleeping, he hears someone call his name. Samuel runs to Eli. "Here I am. You called me?" Samuel says. Eli yawns and shakes his head. "No, I didn't call you. Go back to bed." Samuel hears someone call his name again. He runs to Eli, but the priest sends him back to bed. Then Samuel hears someone call him a third time. So he runs and wakes up Eli once more. "Here I am. You called me?" Samuel says. Eli knows that God is calling Samuel. He tells Samuel, "If you are called again, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" God calls Samuel again. "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening," says Samuel. God answers. This time, Samuel listens and hears an important message from God. When he grows up, Samuel becomes a great prophet and leader. And he still listens to God.
All right, so that was for the little ones, right? And we all know the story of Samuel. But one of the key things that Samuel did that I wanted to share that was, again, all about obedience. So to my little ones that are out there, the babies, the teenagers, the young ones transitioning, even some of those youth, right? Your parents love you. They love you. Trust me, they love you, right? And your parents will not lead you down the wrong path. Now, are your parents perfect? Certainly not, because we were not created as perfect human beings. But your parents has so much wisdom that they can impart on you and set you up for some success, that your obedience will make it so much easier for you to attain and acquire that success. What I want to also share, and I talk about in our community, especially in our Black community, is for parents who are stepping in as step parents. I want to go there a little bit before I wrap it up. For parents who are stepping in as step parents, here's what I want to share with you guys, because I am that person. My eldest, who is now 14, I got him when he was 7. And it took me 7 years to get him where I wanted him to be. So imagine the longer or the older they are. It's time. Remember, this child did not probably agree with this relationship or what is happening. We're not going to go down there. I'm just saying, you as a step parent, whether it's a stepmom or a stepchild, you have to give it time. You have to build the relationship. You have to be sincere. You have to be transparent. You have to be trustworthy. All the things that biological parents have. The only difference is that we have lost some years. Let me not say you, because I'm in your boat. We have lost some years that we have to try to take some time to make sure that we can actually regroup and get that child in a mindset that we would desire. And that all depends on the fact that whether or not the child is the very same dynamic as you. And parenting is very important when we actually talk about dynamics, because when two individuals come together to create a child, the child is going to predominantly carry one DNA style, right? And my biological child, the youngest one, who is 3-year-old, carries my DNA style. And my wife is more on the feeler side, on the behavior style of the spectrum, if you know it. So she's more on the laid back, comfortable, more a little bit quiet. So when my son is going 150 miles an hour, she's tapped out, she just turns, Boogsy. And that's all she can say, because she is gone. And then I can come in because I still have some of that energy left for the day. I can still go a little bit more, or I can just give him a smile and say, hey, Jace, what are you doing? And he's like, Daddy, what do you mean? And that's just now changes the conversation. It is critical to have two parents in the household. I share in my book the must, should, could model, which talks about how we can actually set up ourselves to really be great parents and to find the partners that we desire to share that parenting journey with. And if you have the opportunity, take up a copy. And the must, should, could talks about the must being your priority, that you do not compromise. The should column is where you actually are open to learn. And the could column is if they don't come with it, it's okay, because you are the master of that specific skill. So I break that down a little bit in detail, giving the opportunity for individuals to really use the exercise to see how they can really take it to that next level. And I just want to leave this very last nugget with you before we take some questions. Is really about, you have to inspect what you expect as a parent. And when your child understands certain dynamics of you as a parenting, they will fall in line. And what I mean by that is, my son, I'm the eldest, right? He wants to get into some particular things when it comes to gaming and probably doing some form of graphics, etc. So rather than sitting down and playing game for 6 hours, let's go on the internet and let's look at how we build a game. Let's start buying 1 or 2 tools and start looking at how you can actually design your own website to do 1 or 2 things. I'm creating a website over here. Would you like to see how it's done? I can connect you with the programmer so you can see it. I am investing into what I'm actually looking to expect, which is what he desires. And that may change, but for right now, I'm supporting it. So as parents, we have to really take the effort to walk that path with them. And I'm going to tell you, it's fun because you learn along the way. It's just that your wisdom allows you to guide when certain things come along the path. But I'm learning so much as a parent. I love it. And I want to say, let's make sure we're doing what I would call the love motion and communication motion before we look at everything else. And that can be easily taught once the child understands your love, your style, and your communication. So again, parenting is key. Parenting is great. Parenting, I would say, is a privilege as well, right? And for those of you who step in as parents, so I want to say the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, you have so many of them out there. And I know some of you guys who are aunties who you're like a second mom from they were birthed. Your uncles like second dad when they were birthed. And I can recall having one uncle by the name of Uncle Wayne. Them call it, his name is Papa Wayne. And I can say, if there was my biological father in my life, that uncle is the next man I would call dad. So it doesn't have to be biological. I have spiritual children that I still mentor today from World Harvest, that, you know, it's years of journey we've been on, and they still call me dad. So it's what you sow. It's the investment you put in to show you care, and take the opportunity just to let them know that you love them and you trust them and you're there for them. Thank you again today, guys. Definitely appreciate the opportunity, and I'll open it up for questions.
Pete, thank you. Oh my gosh, my hands are tired. I wrote down so much valuable information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a couple questions here for you.
Yes.
You have a stepson as well as biological kids.
Yes.
But prior to that, you worked with kids before, right?
Yes. Yes.
Kids that were not your biological nor
Yes.
your step.
Yes.
So when you became a parent of your stepchild or your biological child, did you see a difference in the way you behaved, or can you give us any insight for those of us that are not parents yet, but are mentoring or fostering kids?
The biggest difference that I've seen is this, is being there as a parent in the going up, the going to bed, and the waking up in the morning really sets up their day and their night for true success. The behaviors that I learned as a spiritual father was the very same behaviors I use as a biological and stepfather. I just took it a little bit further because now these were kids I had more control over, where as a youth director, you know, there's certain things you can't do. There's certain things you can't say. You're representing the church. So for me, I would say for those of you who are not yet parents, right, it is great to practice on your nephews, your cousins, or if you have a couple that you think are doing a wonderful job at parenting, ask for observation. I have friends who they do great at parenting that I'll call and ask questions. My brother is one. I have friends that I look to and I say, hey, that happened. What did you do in this situation? And that's why as a parenting community, right, when we share those ideas, then the job becomes a little bit easier. So I would say is reach out. Parenting is like anything. You have to do it, practice it. You have to communicate for you to be better at it.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime.
My next question is, you touched on discipline. Children need discipline. Can you define that a little bit more for me? Like, are you referring to the fact that they like a certain hour to go to bed, a certain hour to get up, a certain meal, or are you referring to maybe a physical contact? Can you like define that a little bit more for me, please?
Discipline, right, means different things based on values and based on culture. So I'm going to say in our Black community, especially Caribbean community, I'm talking about really discipline from a guidance. Raising your hand to hit a child, I would say in today's world, depending on the age, I would consider abuse. So for example, my 3-year-old, every now and then I have to give him a tap because I'm saying, Jace, 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 Jace. He's not, Jace, come. I have to give him a tap, but I'm not hit him or I'm not giving him such a tap that he thinks that he's abusing him. My 14-year-old doesn't get that is out the door. There is no raising the hands. It's more a, let's sit down. What happened? Where was your mindset? And I'm going to tell you, Kimon, some of the times when he explains to me what he's doing, it makes sense, but it just wasn't the right time. Honestly, 90% of the time it made sense, but it just wasn't the right time. So now I'm teaching him about timing. How do you look at doing things? Or if you're not sure, come ask Dad. Dad, hey, Dad, I'm thinking about this. When do you think I can do it? So I can help train your mind into how you can make in those decisions. So again, it's all in the interaction of the child and the parent.
I absolutely love that you sit down with the 14-year-old and you discuss it to hear what their mindset is.
Yeah, definitely. I don't raise my hand at him. No, hey, let's want to know where you're at, because they're doing things based on his capacity, but they need guidance. And that's when I can tell you right now, and here's the difference with sometimes having a stepchild and a biological child, right? Mm-hmm. So my stepchild now, the bigger one, he comes to me with a different conversation. My 3-year-old, because he's been with me since he's born, he walks up to me and he says, Daddy, can you teach me? Mm-hmm. And then he continues to whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So you see the difference of the level, right?
Right.
He now understands for him to get to a level, he has to be taught. Who is the teacher? Daddy and mommy and big brother. So he doesn't try to figure, if he can't figure it out, daddy, can you teach me? And at that moment, I'm like, yes, daddy wants to teach. Yes, right. And I'm running over to help. So it's about the connecting.
Perfect. One more question for you.
Oh, you can bring on most questions. I'm here. No worry. I love the questions.
You stated that with a step parent, and because there is, I forgot the actual study, but they said there's a large percentage of African American, Caribbean American, Caribbean community that does not have, it's just one parent household, right?
Yes.
Single parents, right? So when you were incorporating your household with your spouse, did you also include like a therapy, either with a professional or with a pastor, in order to foster a relationship with your stepchild?
So let me give you a little history of how important I think therapy is. That's one of the best decisions I've ever done in my life, and I put it in this book, and that was to seek therapy, right? I hated therapy so much that I did a dissolution of marriage therapy, which I recommend to people. What I mean by that is that I was holding on to a relationship because I didn't want it to go, and I felt, oh, this is what happened. But a therapy session to kind of, how do I handle myself going forward, both her and myself, was so much helpful that I was able now to allow someone else to come in, because now I was able to fix the things that happened in the past that I would not allow to happen in the future. So I definitely recommend it. I did it. One of the things that helped me is because I've done so much therapy session prior to my now new relationship. By the time she came in, I was already on point with some of the therapy stuff. So I was hitting it. We were doing it. We were killing it. And she was like, what do you do? And I'm like, I learned this in therapy. I just want us to do it together to see where you're at. So I saved a lot of money going to someone else because I used the past experiences to get to the level where I wanted her and I to be. And one thing that I did differently this time, right, is I made sure she knew everybody that was close to me. And I asked them this specific question. And people say to me, Pete, you're very open with your life. When you're leading and you want to change other people's life, they have to know your story, right? So I went to all my family members that were close to me. And I'm not going to call his name. They know them because I asked them this question. I said, what do you think of her? And do you see her as somebody that fits me as a wife? I was specific. Right. And when I said everyone, Miss Kimon, I took her to other states. I mean, I took her over the United States to other family members to introduce her, took her to people that were close. Because here's what, people who are very close to you and they know you for a long time, they can tell easily if someone meshes with you. And if they really care about you, they're going to say, hey, Kimon, I think you should think about this. Let's have a conversation. Right. And I did this time around and I got all thumbs up and everybody loved her and it works. So I truly recommend therapy. And as a community, that's one of the things I'm also sharing, that we cannot be scared of therapy. And that's the mental health issue we have in our Black community right now, because our mindsets are not at the capacity where it needs to be to sustain a healthy, transparent, and community relationship.
Thank you.
Anytime.
So you've got your book, your most recent released book, When a Man Lives, right?
Loves.
What was? I'm sorry. When a Man Loves. Now, in order for us to write a book, we have there's something within us that triggers us, right? What triggered you? What made you sit down and write this book? And what was your intention that you want the parent of a 1-year-old, 5-year-old, a 20-year-old, or the parent themselves to be able to understand and to walk away from your book?
Now, I normally don't do this, but the reason being is I'm going to do it so you can go verified, right? So my friend, who you guys know, who's a part of your organization, Sabrina, has known me for almost over 10 years. And Sabrina can attest. I do not like when people have the same horrible experiences that I've had. If I had an experience and it was horrible, I'm going to try my best for you not to have the same experience. Right? And that's the passion I carry when it comes to helping others. And she can attest to that, especially when it comes to my young people. What? We're going to make sure the experience is great. And I had a bad experience when it comes to relationship. I was not taught how to love. I was not taught how to communicate from a level of relationship. And I needed help with understanding that, which therapy did. And that's the reason for the book. I do not want another young man who is in a Black community, who is from Caribbean. And a matter of fact, the subtitle was called A Lifestyle and Leadership Most Jamaican Men Will Never Experience. And my publisher said, Pete, the things that you're writing about, I have friends who are struggling with it. When I shared it with other cultures, they were like, yo, my dad went through that. And I'm like, yo, so I have to take Jamaican out of it. And it's just a man thing, right? When you truly understand the impact of what love can do, when you understand it, then there's no way you can allow individuals to die and not experience love. And I can say my father is one that I think. And the reason why I say that, Kimon, is my mother, God bless her soul, she's passed away too. And my brother, who's living today, right? Both of them was with my dad when he was, passing away, and they can attest to him really, truly experiencing love. Yeah, I was never hugged by my dad. I was never told I was loved by my dad. And we're not going down that path, but I'm just saying is I don't believe he has experienced that. And he has 7 kids. How you got 7 kids and never experienced love? That's the type of mindset I want to change in our community. That is bizarre. And since I lived it, witnessed it, I'm putting it in a document here that others won't make the same mistake. And that's what the Bible says, right? When you learn from a wise man, you won't make the same mistake. So I don't want young men and young women walking, and what we say in Jamaica, when you buck your foot, you find out. I don't want my young people doing that. I don't want your son doing that. I don't want your daughters doing that. I don't want the community sons and daughters doing that. Pick up a copy and understand how you can love as a man.
Wow. Now you also touched on one thing. You spoke about, like, 2 seconds. You talked about touch, right? And then telling your child that you love them, right? Can you just expand a little bit more on that? Like, how relevant is that? How important is that we tell our young ones from birth that we love them, and hugging and so forth?
I mean, our Savior did it. He said, suffer the little children to come unto me and bid them not. So when we talk about children and when we talk about love, children do not see color. They just know love. And I always observe my little 3-year-old and my 7-year-old when I had him at how they responded to love. And here's something that we did in the car one day. So I'm driving in the car and something came on the radio, and I somehow made a joke to him. This is my stepson. I made a joke to him and I said, daddy doesn't love you. And with him behind me, Kimon, I could felt his energy changed, his body language changed, his demeanor changed. And his immediate next words was, Dad, what do you mean? And the tone told me that something was wrong. So I was like, what happened? He's like, you told me you love me every day. How is it that you don't love me today? And my wife is cracking up in the seat, because this is our little chat. And I told myself, I am not making that mistake again, right? I'm not going to joke about not loving him, because he had believed and I've convinced him that dads loved him. And I'm not going to joke about not loving him. The reason why that's important is this, right? Is when you understand how much as a man, fellowship is what love is all about. When you're sitting on the street corners of Jamaica, that's fellowship, right? When you're sitting and playing dominoes for hours, that's fellowship. When you're watching a soccer game, especially a cricket match, that's fellowship. All of these things that men do are fellowship, and all of these fellowship is love. So we were created this particular type of way. We just are not taught how to be consistent in it. And the reason why it's important is, one, it will definitely decrease crime. Because when you understand love, you just don't go out and just spray people and just kill as you do, right? Now, I'm not going to say that other things doesn't drive people to do violence, those who still have love, right? Because sometimes there's a little trigger that can make people do things, but it will decrease. It will decrease a little bit, because I wouldn't want to take from Mr. John to give to Mr. Tom when I understand there's an impact on both ends. So with that love, what we also do is we set up our daughters and our sons to be effective in our families, which means that they're now helping to change the new generation and their mindset in regards to hugging. I hug my sons all the time. My 14, the big one, he knows right now, and I've been warning him, and this is what I've been putting. I said, I don't want to see this thing come on where now you're going to high school and I can't hug you. If you don't want to be embarrassed, tell daddy you don't want to get a hug when I drop you off or don't give you a kiss. Are you crazy? What are you talking about? This love should be inside of the house, outside of the house, on the soccer field. I said, when you're playing soccer and you score a goal, who's the biggest cheerleader out there? Me. And I can't give you a hug when I drop you off at school. Boy, you tripping. Right? So, but now he's like, all right, dad, it's cool. It's cool. But I say to him, now you got to tell your friends, it's not, you're joking at me because my dad loves me? Hey, if it's okay, tell them my dad will give you a hug too. So I'm already setting up his mindset that when he starts school, when he goes in high school, if they're teasing you about that, just tell him, hey, my dad will give you a hug. I'll just tell him, he'll pull up and come out the car, and I know my dad will give you a hug. But that's not anything for you to feel bad about, son. You know what I'm saying? But it starts from home, and it will make huge differences of how we treat our wives, our friends, our businesses, and it'll take us to the next success. Love conquers all.
Well, Pete, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Now, how do we go about finding your book? Where can we locate your book to purchase it?
Well, I do want to say that at the end of this month, I'm doing a huge book launch, none like before. It's on the 29th of May. It's going to be at the Miramar Regional Park. It's going to be at the corporate pavilion, specifically in the park. And I have international reggae artist Agent Sasko from Jamaica, who has endorsed the book, and he's coming to do a keynote speaking message to talk about how Assassin has transitioned to Agent Sasko. And I have so many community leaders that are going to support us there. Dr. Alan Cunningham from the Jamaica man of Florida, Oliver Meir, who is a Jamaica Consul General for Miami, Kenasha Paul from the Black Professional Network, Commissioner Maxwell from Miramar, Bishop Ruddock, Father Ward, so many other people that are coming through to support this event. It's going to be huge. It's none like before. And here's what I've done differently. Is this day I've opened it up where other authors can join me. So it's not all about me. Other authors are going to be there showcasing their talent, showcasing their book. And the big question is, where can you find this? Visit my website at www.peteakennedy.com. That's my name, peteakennedy.com. Go to the website. You can get a copy of the book. You can get an autographed copy of the book. You can also pick up a ticket to come to the actual book launch. Or if you want to, check it out at home, we do have streaming opportunities available. You can get a virtual ticket as well. But if you are available, come out to the park. We're going to be honoring the CDC guidelines when it comes to small groupings. It's going to be outdoors. We're just going to have a pavilion that's covering us from sun and rain and all of that stuff, but it's still outdoors. And you can actually get a wonderful event. And ask Sabrina, I always got a surprise. So come on out. So I got something for you.
I'm super excited about that. Super excited about that. Now, can we also reach you on Instagram, on Facebook?
Definitely. Yes, I am on Instagram at Pete Andre Ken. That is ANDRE like Andre Ken. It's actually my name, Pete Andre Kennedy. Pete Andre Ken. Let me repeat it again. Pete Andre Ken. That's my Instagram. And my Facebook is my first and last name, Pete Kennedy. Pete Kennedy.
Okay, well, thank you so much. So we know how to reach you via your website, which is www.peteakennedy.com. And we are looking forward to the launching of your book, which would be March 29th in Miramar.
May 29th.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
May 29th in
Yes,
Miramar.
yes.
And we'll definitely have that up on our Facebook as well. So those that are interested can come out and support you as well. Before we part, do you have any further, do you have any parting words for us?
Definitely. I want to say again to the Madge Lewis Foundation, God bless you all and your entire team that is actually out there. You guys are doing a wonderful job. And I think you guys are setting the bar in regards to how we actually uplift and enhance our community. So great job to you guys. But to our parents, remember the key to all your resolutions and your answers is love. Love conquers all. Love will let you do some things that you don't think you have in you. Try it, and I guarantee you, you will love it. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you again, Madge Lewis Foundation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete. And I wish you good luck with your book. And we're going to have you back at some time because there's so much valuable information that you provided us with. Thank you for your time and thank you for being a part of our workshop.
Anytime.
Thank you and have a good day.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.